Argentina is a land of diverse culture and beauty. It is bordered by the Atlantic Ocean to the east and surrounded by 5 countries: Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay, Bolivia, and Chile. Argentina is known for its beautiful landscape, wine, and Argentine tango. Argentina's historical existence, due to Spanish colonization and lack of administrative power in the region, is bounded mostly with Buenos Aires' history, the capital of Argentina. Argentina was discovered in 1502 by the explorer Amerigo Vespucci. Buenos Aires was founded in 1536. In 1539, the indigenous people forced the colonists to flee up north to Asuncion, Paraguay. The first colony of Buenos Aires was burnt down in 1541, but it wasn't until 1580 that Spain, under the leadership of Juan de Garay, was able to establish its first permanent colony, Buenos Aires, in Argentina. Argentina remained under the influence of the Viceroy of Peru until 1776. The Spanish further integrated Argentina into their empire by establishing the Viceroyalty of Rio de la Plata in 1776, and Buenos Aires became a flourishing port. From its initial settlement of 500, by this time in the early 1800s, Buenos Aires' population only grew to a mere 7,500 people. The city mainly survived by smuggling and illegal trade of the goods that did come in and out of its port. The people of Buenos Aires came to be called porteños, or people of the port. Argentina began the road towards independence after the English invaded and captured Buenos Aires in 1806. However, nearly a month later, the city was reconquered later by Juan Martín Pueyrredón. The English tried to capture the city again in 1807, which they did. However, the English experienced a humiliating defeat after being driven out by its inhabitants, who dropped stones and boiling water over the tops of the English soldiers' heads. By freeing themselves from the rule of 2 world powers, the Argentine settlers created an identity for themselves. At the time in Europe, Napoleon conquered Spain and Spanish colonies had no king to obey. As a result of these factors, porteños created and signed their Declaration of Independence on July 9, 1816. Argentina became the first independent country in Latin America. Tango has its roots deep in the country of Argentina. Argentine tango, which Argentina is mostly renowned for, originated in the suburbs of Buenos Aires in the late 19th century. By the mid-20th century, Argentine tango was going international with the help of musicians such as Osvaldo Pugliese and Astor Piazzolla. This is just one of many Argentina's strong cultural traditions, and there is much more to see and experience. Argentina, a country with a strong taste for tradition and love. The first European settlers to set foot in Uruguay were Spaniards 500 years ago. The native Charrua Indians thwarted those early expeditions. In 1680, the first permanent settlement was founded by the Portuguese at Colonia, as competition to the rival Spanish city of Buenos Aires on the opposite shore of the Rio de la Plata. In 1726, Spain responded by building a citadel at Montevideo, now Uruguay's capital. Montevideo became the major Spanish port of the South Atlantic. For a century or so in these colonial times, Uruguay was in the middle of a tug-of-war between the Portuguese and the Spanish. Eventually, Uruguay became an independent state constituting a buffer zone between Argentina and Brazil. Uruguay's neighboring countries would repeatedly test its fragile independence. Uruguayan national hero José Gervasio Artigas declared Uruguay independent in 1815 with his Revolution of the Poor. A year later, Brazilians attacked Montevideo from the north, and after 4 years of fighting, Uruguay was annexed to Brazil in 1821. On August 25, 1825, Juan Antonio Lavalleja and his little group of brave men issued a Declaration of Independence. After a 3-year fight, a peace treaty between Argentina and Brazil was brokered by Britain and signed on August 28, 1828, guaranteeing Uruguay's independence. Uruguay is a country of beauty. Tour the Punta del Este beaches across the Rio de la Plata and enjoy the taste of Montevideo life at the Rambla. Uruguay's culture is extremely diverse besides its Spanish and native cultures. There are Italians, Germans, Swiss, Russians, carnivals, and candobes. Come to Uruguay and relax. Paraguay is a landlocked country. It is bordered by Argentina to the south and southwest, Brazil to the east and northeast, and Bolivia to the northwest. Paraguay lies on both banks of the Paraguay River, which runs through the center of the country from north to south. Due to its central location in South America, it is sometimes referred to as Corazón de América, or the Heart of America. The history of Paraguay is poorly documented, as almost no archaeological research has been done and little is known about Paraguay's pre-Columbian history. What is certain is that the eastern part of the country was occupied by Guarani peoples for at least 1,000 years before the Spanish colonization of the Americas. Evidence indicates that these indigenous Americans developed a fairly sophisticated semi-nomadic culture consisting of several independent multi-village communities. The first Spaniards settled in the territory in the 16th century. They were predominantly young men, as few women followed them to the region. Following the Spanish conquest and colonization, a large mixed population developed, which spoke the language of their indigenous mothers but adopted much of their father's Spanish culture. Paraguay's colonial history was one of general calm punctuated by turbulent political events. The country's economy at the time made it unimportant to the Spanish crown, and the distance of its capital from other new cities on the South American continent led to isolation. Paraguay declared its independence from Spain in 1811. Since then, the country has had a history of dictatorial governments from the utopian regime of José Gaspar Rodriguez de Francia to the suicidal reign of Francisco Solano Lopez, who nearly devastated the country in warfare against the combined forces of Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay from 1865 to 1870. The so-called War of the Triple Alliance ended in the near annihilation of Paraguay and set the stage for the formation of a two-party Colorado versus liberal political system that persists until the present day. Asunción, the capital of Paraguay, is one of the oldest cities in South America and the longest continually inhabited area in the River Plate Basin. For this reason that it is known as Mother of Cities. It was from here that the colonial expeditions departed to found other cities, including the second foundation of Buenos Aires and of other important cities such as Villarrica, Corrientes, Santa Fe, and Santa Cruz de la Sierra. The site of the city may have been first visited by Spanish conqueror Juan de Ayolas on his way north off the Paraguay River, looking for a passage to the mines of Alto Peru, present-day Bolivia. Later, Juan de Salazar y Espinosa and Gonzalo de Mendoza were sent in search of Ayolas, but were unable to find him. On his way up and then down the river, de Salazar stopped briefly at a bay in the left bank to resupply his ships. He found the natives friendly and decided to found a fort there in August 1537. As customary, he named it according to the religious feast of that day, for August 15th, Nuestra Señora de la Asunción, Our Lady of the Assumption, honoring the feast day of the Assumption. This fort became a city with the establishment of Cabildo, civilian administration, on September 16, 1541.
Que nunca la olvidé, cuartito azul, hoy te canto mi adiós, ya no abriré tu puerta y tu balcón.